Welcome back, friends. This is another edition of Cookin with K, and today we are going to be making a creamy chicken fettuccine Alfredo from scratch. As you can see here, we are going to start with the noodles. I'm going to create a little flour volcano. This is where the eggs will go, and hopefully not escape. Again, hopefully is the key word here, as eggs like to run. I sincerely hope that this video finds you well and that this dish can bring some joy to you and to your day. You're going to add just over a teaspoon of oil and a pinch of salt to the mixture. Then you are going to press the ingredients together until it becomes one cohesive unit. This can become tedious, as the dough is not very soft at this point. You want to continue this process for about 7 to 10 minutes. It's important that you continue to work the dough, as it will start to come together better soon. Rather than stir as we normally do, at this point, let's press, and more press. Now we are beginning to form a little noodle dough ball. Continue to work that dough ball together, as you don't want the noodles to fall apart when you start to boil them. We're not quite done, as you do need to get some frustration out if you've had any little previous mistakes, and we want to make sure that the dough is sticking together and won't fall apart. It's starting to stick together. That's fantastic. The dough will need to rest, so we're going to wrap it in cellophane, and then we'll set it aside for about 30 minutes. And here you go. I need to be honest with you. I was toying with my recipe at first, and these are my two initial fails. First, there was too much dough and a runaway egg. I tried to save that one. And then, press, and, well, you could continue pressing, but all you're going to get is a flaky ball that doesn't really come together. Then, on the second try, I did an extra egg and I did a little bit more oil. Maybe this could be promising. Not. Yeah, it looks a little bit like porridge or grits. This didn't turn out well either. But let's get back to what really did go well. Grab your little noodle dough ball and cut it into 4 pieces. You're going to want to take them apart, as you want to roll each one individually, so that when you put it into the noodle flattener or the noodle cutter, depending on how flat you can get your balls to roll, you want them to be strong and thin. So this is a fun noodle fact here. The creator of this dish was Alfredo di Lelio, who created this dish simply from butter, cheese, and of course noodles. This was to encourage his wife to eat after she had given birth and didn't have an appetite. So cheers to you, Alfredo, and what a gentlemanly person as a husband and as a chap. What a guy. So this dish goes out to you. You created it out of need, and for us, we usually want to have it as a want. But let's be honest, many people want this as a need instead. But here we are. Look, we have 4 flat strips of dough. That's fantastic. A nice little pat for a job well done. And this, it's perfectly fine. It's extremely important that you add flour to the dough so that it doesn't stick. Let's get to flattening that dough, and if it isn't flat enough already, we want it thin but strong as well before we put it through the cutter. Here's what the noodles should look like. You're going to continue this process until all the dough has become noodles. You may want to cut them in half once finished if they do seem a tad long. I portion the noodles like so and set them aside for boiling later. Now, let's get to cooking some chicken, or your meat of choice. I went with chicken strips as the choice, not out of necessity, but as of a need because my local grocery store was out of the breasts, and I prefer fresh over frozen, but either will work just fine. At this point, keep it simple with the seasoning. I went with garlic, salt, pepper, and oregano. Each side of cooking these chicken tenders will take about 3 to 4 minutes. It could also take a little bit longer or a little quicker if you have your heat at a higher setting, but it really just depends on your stove. Of course, you can use a different meat like seafood, but I went chicken for today. Once the meat is finished cooking, then chop it up. I went with a rustic way to give a little bit more character. Let's get right into it with the sauce. Of course, don't get lost in the sauce. We're going to start with a whole stick of salted butter. This is the base of a good Alfredo sauce. Just look at those beautiful golden and brown bubbles. Once it's melted down, you're going to add a little bit of garlic and then of course another pinch of salt. There's a lot of salt in this dish. Once you've done that, give it a quick stir and then you're going to add the cream and Italian seasoning. You'll bring it back to a boil, then you'll lower the heat before adding this huge mountain of Parmesan. And follow one of our normal themes here at the channel. You're gonna wanna stir, stir, and stir. Or in this case, mix, mix, swirl, mix, mix, swirl. Set it aside to simmer once it starts to come together. We're close now. We're in the final stretch. Let's get those noodles cooking by adding some olive oil. As the noodles are made fresh and are soft to begin with, they take much less time to cook than their counterpart, the dry from the store noodles, if you will. One thing to note is to use salted water. And by salty, I mean like the Dead Sea. The noodles will absorb some of this salt and will add tons of flavor to it. I heard a story once that a chef in Italy that lived by the sea would send a young apprentice with buckets to gather water from the shore side. I can neither confirm nor deny the validity of this, but since the coast is a few hours away from me, I'll stick to the easier route and use the salt from my cupboard. I'm sure it'll still turn out great. Continue to stir these noodles so that they don't stick together. Soon enough, the noodles will look to be cooked through for about 4 to 5 minutes. You're gonna wanna take one out and taste it. That's absolutely fantastic. You're done. Here's the plated result. This creamy and delicious creation packs a lot of flavor. Thanks for watching. I'm Kay, and I hope you have a very great day.